Before we get into today's episode, I want to share a new resource we've put together with 3 of our favourite breakfast recipes for kids that will help to improve their mood and behaviour throughout the day. You can grab your copy by heading on over to naturalsuperkids.com/breakfast. You'll find the link in the show notes as well. Unfortunately, many kids are starting the day with refined, processed, sugary breakfasts, which are leading to fluctuations in their energy, their mood, and their behaviour throughout the day. And if we can get some good quality nourishing food into our kids at the start of the day that contains some good quality protein, some healthy fats, some complex carbohydrates, and vitamins and minerals that are going to nourish their brain, it sets them up for more balanced moods, better behaviour, and improved learning throughout the day as well. These recipes we've put together are quick and easy to make, perfect for those busy mornings. They're nutritious and healthy and delicious. Your kids will love them. So make sure you grab your copy by heading on over to naturalsuperkids.com/breakfast. Welcome to the Natural Super Kids podcast, where you will discover practical strategies to inspire you to boost the health and nutrition of your kids. I'm Jessica Donovan, a qualified naturopath specialising in kids' health, and I want to make it as easy as possible for you to raise healthy and happy kids. Let's get into it. Hello and welcome back to the Natural Super Kids podcast, or welcome if it's your first time ever tuning in. Today we are specifically looking at behavioural challenges in kids, so things like defiance, angry outbursts, issues with impulse control or emotional regulation, meltdowns, tantrums, kids not listening. These are some of the most common challenges that we hear from parents in our Natural Super Kids community when it comes to their kids' behaviour and the issues or challenges they're having with their kids' behaviour. And so today I want to talk about something you may or may not have thought about before, and that is whether your child's behavioural challenges could be largely contributed to the state of their gut, the health of their gut, the gut microbiome, or digestive issues they may be having that may or may not be obvious to you. So that's what we're diving into. It's a really interesting point of view, I think. It's something we see really commonly here at Natural Super Kids. You know, sometimes, I guess deliberately, and other times accidentally. And what I mean by that is, parents might come and seek our support for some issues that their kids are having. Maybe they have got obvious digestive symptoms. Maybe they've got constipation, or they've got tummy upsets. Their kids are complaining that their tummy's sore. And what we see time and time again is, as we address and improve these digestive symptoms in kids, what often is some feedback we get from parents is like, oh, their mood seems to be much better. They're not having as many angry outbursts, or they're not having as many meltdowns or tantrums, or they seem to be more in control of their emotions. So this can kind of happen, like I said, accidentally as a bit of a positive side effect, or it can be, really deliberate on our part in terms of we are, deliberately working on the gut so that we can get some positive outcomes for behavioural challenges in kids. And I also just want to say that, look, we're realistic, but kids are not supposed to be perfectly behaved all of the time. It is normal for our kids to have up and down moods. It is normal, especially at certain developmental stages, for kids to have meltdowns and tantrums and not have very good emotional regulation or impulse control. But we're talking about when this stuff is ongoing and it's causing, a problem, there could also be other things going on, potentially like the child could be neurodiverse. We're going to talk a little bit about that as well. But yeah, I just want to make it clear that, we're not saying if your child has the odd kind of moody day that you need to really get hyper-focused on their gut. This is for those ongoing issues where kids, have one or more of these behavioural challenges, going on for the long term. So none of us, I'm sure you'll agree, none of us are at our best when we experience digestive discomfort. Digestive discomfort, feeling off in your tummy, definitely leads to irritability and moodiness, and sometimes even worse. And children, especially young children, cannot always articulate or even recognise that they have got digestive discomfort. So we can easily miss it. I remember my daughter when she was little, she would say she feels sick when after a while I realised she meant she had a tummy ache. I would think, oh no, she's going to start vomiting any moment. But she would use that word, I feel sick. So sometimes it can be really tricky to figure out what is going on for our kids, especially when they're young, before they have the language to describe it. And that kind of, a body awareness of what might be going on and how to explain that. And commonly, we see things like food intolerances, tummy pain, constipation, bloating go unrecognised, for long periods of time because these things can be hard to pick up. Constipation, for example, is not always really obvious. Some kids are still going to the toilet regularly, but they're not fully evacuating when they do go. So just because your child's going to the toilet, even every day, doesn't mean there's no constipation issues. So sometimes we do need to look a bit deeper. And this is certainly something we help people with both in our Natural Super Kids Club membership to try and navigate, and also in one-on-one online consultation. So I'll make sure that, those options are linked in the show notes so that you can, you can find out more about how we can support you in these areas. But what I do really want to make clear is, or I guess make a point of, is to have regular open conversations with your kids about their poo, their bowel movement. Look, and I will totally speak from experience here when I say this gets harder as they get older. Little kids are more than happy to talk about their poo most of the time. But as they, get older and get into the teenage years and want privacy, there's no way you're going to be getting, details from them. But the idea is that you've given them the knowledge and you've had open conversations up until that point so that they can recognize when things might not be going, as well as they should themselves. So I would highly recommend, starting to check out your kids' poop regularly, keep a track of regularity, how often they're going, have open conversations. If you haven't heard of the Bristol stool chart, this can be a really great, visual that you can print out offline. We've got a copy of the kids' version of the Bristol stool chart attached to the show notes of episode 43 of the Natural Super Kids podcast, which is called What Your Child's Poop Can Tell You. And that goes into a lot more detail about, what certain signs, consistencies, colours, in your child's poo can tell you about their digestive system. But I guess for here, I just want to say, asking questions like, do you feel like you're finished? Because, that can really help to determine whether they are having complete bowel movements and are fully evacuating. Or do you feel like you need to go again? If they're going to the toilet, half an hour after they've been, and going again for a bowel movement, that can be a sign that there is some, slow movement and constipation there as well. Does your tummy feel happy? That can be sometimes easier for a child to understand rather than, do you have a tummy ache? Do you have pain in your tummy? Does your tummy feel happy or does it feel sad? Those kind of words can really help. Talk to them about consistency. Is your poo hard? Is it soft? Or talk to them about what you're seeing. It looks hard, it looks soft, it looks good. How fast did it come out? Did you have to push? What was the colour like? So having these conversations with your kids can really help empower them to be in tune with what's going on, because what we're seeing in the toilet bowl can be a really good reflection as to what's going on physically for a child. And this definitely applies to adults as well. But when we're talking about behaviour, if we're looking at what is coming out of our child in terms of bowel movements, that can give us some really good clues as to why they might be struggling with, behaviour at a certain time, because they may have some constipation, or their bowel movements may be off, not their regular. And so that can give us some hints as to what is going on, not that just that they're being difficult, they're having another tantrum. Oh my God, there can be physical reasons that this is happening. And I'm going to get to, why in a moment. But really when we think of it, at a basic level, I think we've all experienced when our tummies are upset, or we're constipated, or, we've got some bloating, we're generally not going to be our best selves. We're not going to be in the best mood. And our moods, of course, impact our behaviour. So don't overlook this important piece when it comes to your child's behavioural challenges. And if we dive in, a bit further as to why this is and what is going on, we want to really understand the gut-brain connection. Now, this is something I've spoken about before. You may have heard me talk about it. I love this topic because it's just so fascinating to me. We go into a lot of detail about the gut-brain connection in episode 151 of the Natural Super Kids podcast. I'll make sure that's linked in the show notes so you can go and have a listen to that. But what the gut-brain connection is, if you haven't heard about this before, and I think it's always a good idea to be reminded, is it's the communication that happens between the gut and the brain. And this is a two-way communication. So the microbes, the little bacteria that live within our gut microbiome, talk to the brain. And that it's thought that obviously there's a lot of research being done in this area. There's more research that needs to be done, but this communication is thought to affect the production of neurotransmitters or brain chemicals. So depending on, I guess another way to put this is, depending on how healthy the gut microbiome is, how diverse the gut microbiome is, will really make a difference in terms of what neurotransmitters are being produced and how many of these neurotransmitters are being produced. So when we're talking about neurotransmitters, I'm talking about things like serotonin and dopamine and GABA. These are just some examples, and these are all really important when it comes to mood, mental health, and behaviour. And we know that an imbalance of these kinds of brain chemicals impacts our kids' mood and behaviour. What we also know is an imbalance in these brain chemicals is linked to a low diversity within the gut microbiome. And what that means is it's there's not as many healthy species as there could be or should be for that healthy brain for a healthy brain and nervous system. So we know that high microbiome diversity is important for overall health. And we also know that high diversity has a positive impact on mental health. So when we've got a lower diversity of gut microbiome in our gut microbiome, or our children have low diversity within their gut microbiome because of factors such as antibiotic use or, there's a whole range of different things, low fiber diet, indoor lifestyle, not getting exposure to outside, microbes that sort of are naturally occurring outside. These can all affect our overall gut microbiome diversity. And of course, these are all common issues in the modern world in terms of our kids' diet and lifestyle. So this low diversity in the gut microbiome can have an impact on our children's physical health, as well as their mental health, their brain health, and their mood and behaviour. So on a positive note, we know that improving diversity of the gut microbiome can help to rebalance brain chemicals such as serotonin, dopamine, GABA. And so this will help to improve mental health and also, improve mood and behaviour. So there has been research done on, mental health conditions such as anxiety, depression, bipolar, even schizophrenia, and the positive impact that probiotics can have when it comes to these mental health conditions. So we know, these mental health conditions can be affected, but we also know that, overall mood affects our kids' behaviour. So even if our kids don't have anxiety or schizophrenia or bipolar, a slight imbalance or, a subpar balance of microbes within the gut can definitely impact behaviour in more subtle ways than maybe these mental health conditions would. So if your child's behaviour is less than ideal, you do want to be thinking about the gut and the involvement that the gut may have. There was a really interesting study done, and I'll make sure the link to this study is in the show notes. And this particular study showed that positive behavioural traits were linked with more diverse gut microbiomes. So this particular study was specifically done on toddlers, and it found that a toddler's temperament is affected by the diversity of their gut microbiome. And that positive behavioural traits, how happy the toddler was, essentially, was dependent on how diverse their gut microbiome was. So yes, of course, tantrums in the toddler years are completely normal, but it's a really interesting study to show, we know that some toddlers struggle with tantrums and meltdowns way more than other toddlers. So potentially, this is part of what is going on and what is at play when it comes to, toddler tantrums. And I just want to talk a little bit about neurodiversity here as well. So I wanted to make sure I included this in the conversation because we know that kids that are diagnosed with ADHD or autistic children will often have challenges with their behaviour. And we also know that neurodiverse kids often have less diversity in their gut microbiome. Now, look, it's not clear, which comes first, the lack of diversity or the behavioural challenges. We also know that, neurodiverse kids often have less variety in their diet. They might have fussy eating tendencies because of sensory challenges and that sort of thing, which can impact the diversity of the gut microbiome as well. But it's definitely something to keep in mind in terms of, when we know that when we get more diversity within that gut microbiome, behavioural challenges, decrease. So that's, something really empowering and positive that we can do. there was a trial where there was a group of children, autistic children, that were given a fecal transplant. Now, this is becoming more common and popular, but it's still a relatively novel approach to increasing diversity within the gut microbiome. But the idea was to donate more diverse bacteria to the gut microbiome of these children through fecal transplants. And the results were pretty amazing. There was a 45% reduction in symptoms, behavioural challenges, things like social interactions and language improved. And the positive results, they were quite long lasting. So even 2 years post-treatment, symptoms continued to improve. I just find that super fascinating. So again, I will link that study in the show notes as well. So there's a whole range of reasons that we've talked about, that really link the gut and the digestive function overall to, your kids' behavioural challenges. So we definitely want this to be, I guess, a part of our awareness when we are looking at improving behavioural challenges in kids. And I think it's something that a lot of people, may not have thought about before. So I really hope this has been helpful. We are going to be, diving into this in more detail in an upcoming masterclass that I'm doing on mood, sleep, and behaviour. So keep your eyes peeled for that. We're going to be talking about that, when it is ready for people to sign up to on this podcast. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. Head on over to our website, naturalsuperkids.com, for the show notes for this episode, as well as a whole heap of inspiration to help you raise healthy and happy kids. I'll see you next week. Hey, before you go, don't forget to grab your copy of our 3 breakfast recipes to improve your kids' mood and behaviour all day long. You can grab your copy by heading on over to naturalsuperkids.com/breakfast. Your kids and you will love these recipes, and they will set them up for more balanced moods, better behaviour, and improved learning throughout the day. The ebook includes 3 recipes, including our famous chocolate granola, as well as a pancake recipe and a frittata recipe. So head on over and grab your copy. We know you'll love them.